Okay, good morning. So we are meeting after CAT. So before CAT exam, we started Model 4, and in Model 4 we discussed how to design a larger memory system for computer architecture with available smaller chips. Okay, but okay. So before I proceed further on that, let me know whether you're able to see this screen, that white screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Right. So in Model 4 is one of the it has lengthy topics. The topics are require a lot of discussions. So we started with memory design. So today we are going to discuss on memory hierarchy. Okay, right. Now we know this memory in general. It has two types. One is volatile, another is non-volatile. So volatile memory, example for volatile memory is RAM, and example for non-volatile memory is ROM. And this RAM, it's a random access memory. We discussed this also in the previous class. So randomly any location can be accessed. So it is fast. So the characteristics of random access memory is it is a fast memory, and it's a slow memory, because here the access is sequential. Suppose we want to go to 100th location, we have to pass all the below 99 locations, then only we can get into 100th location. So it's a slow. Okay, right. Now why this is fast, why this is slow? Because of this scheme, like it can directly access, and also it is made up of semiconductors. These are all made up of magnetic materials. Since it's made up of semiconductor materials, it is costly memory, and it is a cheap memory. So it is comparatively it is very cheap. ROM are cheap when we compare with RAM. Okay, this is the basic difference between them, apart from volatile, non-volatile. Now, in a computer architecture, we need both these memory. We need both random access memory as well as read-only memory. The reason is we would like to see everything in permanent form, like we want to keep everything permanent, but the problem with the permanent memory is it is slow. Okay, at the same time we want things to be executed faster. See, our intention may be retaining things permanently, as well as we want to execute the things much fast. So we need high-speed devices, high-speed execution devices, but we don't have non-volatile memory with high-speed characteristics. So what we are doing is we want to utilize the advantage of volatile memory because they are all fast, and we want to utilize the advantage of ROM. They are all permanent as well as cheap, and we can arrive the memory requirement for a computer with both these. To get the benefit of memory, to get the benefit of volatile and non-volatile, we are we are going to use both these volatile and non-volatile memory in our system. So the idea is we have a computer, we have a chip in that computer. That chip is called CPU, and CPU needs something. That something may be available from RAM, will help us to execute the things fast, right? So if you want something and that something is available in RAM, then the CPU can execute the things much faster compared to getting something from the non-volatile memory. Okay, so we would like to keep a volatile memory here, and we can keep a non-volatile memory away from the CPU. So it's a non-volatile memory. Okay, it's a volatile memory. So the idea is this volatile memory cannot retain informations. Once the power goes off, everything will be lost. So the idea is we would like to have some connection between this volatile memory and non-volatile memory, such that whenever a computer turned on, a portion of non-volatile memory can occupy here. So whenever CPU looks for something, it will first check whether that something is available in the volatile memory, because it's a random access, right? So it can easily access the thing, and then it can work. Suppose the item which the CPU is looking for is not available in the volatile memory, because usually the volatile memory we keep with low capacity compared to non-volatile memory, because volatile memory are costly. They are made up of semiconductors, so they are all costly devices. So we cannot keep 1 gig. Usually they are all going with megabyte of memory, and usually this goes in gigabytes of memory. So we cannot use gigabyte of volatile memory also. In that case, the overall system cost will be high. So it will increase the cost of overall system. So we should keep lower capacity of volatile memory, higher capacity of non-volatile memory, and say for example 1 MB, 1 GB. Let us take. Okay, so this is 1000 times higher than this one, right? So one among the 1000 will be available always, and CPU, whenever it looks for something, first it will check whether that something is available here. If it is available here, then at faster rate the things will happen. In case the thing is not available here, then there is no other way. It has to go to non-volatile memory and check whether that item is available in the non-volatile memory. So most probably the item will be available in non-volatile memory because it is a larger capacity. So somewhere that information may be available in that memory. But the problem is it is a slow thing. Okay, so the item may reach the CPU but with a delay. Okay, so that's the way. So till this, any doubt? So we are going to use volatile memory as well as non-volatile memory in our computer organization. The reason is that volatile memory itself comes with the benefits of high speed, and non-volatile memory has the benefit of cheap. So we want to use both. Okay, so any doubt in this? Okay, now this is further the hierarchy is developed with some more flexible. I mean, we are going to add one more thing here in between. Okay, so for that we have to understand what is the classification of RAM. So RAM has classifications, but we are going to see only two classifications in that. One is static RAM and one is dynamic RAM. The dynamic RAM, we have synchronous DRAM. I'm not going in that angle right now. So only two things I'm going to cover. One is static RAM and one is dynamic RAM. So what is the difference between these two? So in order to understand that, you should know what is called memory cell. Let us understand what is called memory cell. So memory cell is a basic elementary circuit required to store a bit of information. So the circuit required to store a bit of information. A bit of information is called as a memory cell. What does that mean? Let us take one example. Suppose we are saying 1 kilobyte, 1 KB of memory. 1 kilobyte of memory. So 1 kilobyte of memory, it means it is nothing but 1024 bytes of memory. It is further, this can be written 1024 into 8. Is it alright? Byte means what? 8 bits is a byte. Okay, so it is nothing but approximately 8 kilobits. So in this 1 kilobyte of memory, we have 8 kilobits of cells. So what is called a cell? The basic unit. So here we are using 8,000 cells approximately. 24 I am just not taking in account. So let me just approximately write 8,000 memory cells are there. So I hope you got the point. What is called a memory cell? So memory cell is nothing but the basic unit or basic item in your memory to read in a bit. Okay, so we need 8,000 memory cells to construct 1 kilobyte of memory. Will you able to get the point? Anybody having any issues in understanding this? I repeat again, 1 kilobyte of memory, we are going to calculate how many memory cells are there. So 1 kilobyte of memory can be written as 1024 bytes of memory. So 1024 bytes of memory is nothing but 1024 into 8. Byte means 8. So byte refers 8, right? 8 bit is nothing but bytes. So our intention is we are going to find out how many bits are there. So 8024 into 8, approximately 8000 bits. It means there are 8000 memory cells are there in a 1 kilobyte of memory. Okay, right. Now the difference between static RAM and dynamic RAM will come here in the basic memory cell architecture. In the static RAM, we need 6 transistors to construct a memory cell. Whereas in dynamic RAM, we need 1 transistor and 1 capacitor to construct a memory cell. Okay, it means, for example, for 1 kilobyte of memory, we need 8,000 into 6, that is 48,000 transistors we need. Whereas here, for the same example, we need only 8,000 into 1. Okay, that is 8,000 transistors. Now let us compare only transistors alone. Timing, don't bother about capacitor, because capacitor will not consume power. Only transistors will consume power. Okay, I hope you know the basics, right? So transistors usually we need to bias, right? So it will consume some power. So we are interested to calculate only transistors. We are interested to compare only transistors, right? For the same capacity, for 1 kilobyte of memory, we need 48,000 transistors here, 8,000 transistors here. Okay, right. Now it means static RAM, as it contains more transistors, so it will occupy more space. So the result will be it will occupy more space. Here we are using only less transistors compared to the SRAM. It will occupy less space, though 8,000 capacitors are there, plus 8,000 capacitors are there. But anyhow, even if you add 16,000, for example, roughly if you say, but it is thrice, it takes larger space, right? So it will occupy less space. Third, there are 48,000 transistors, so it will consume more power, more heat. It develops more heat, like that. So here it consumes less power, it emits less heat. Okay, less heat. Right. So with these, what we can say, this looks better, dynamic RAM compared to static RAM on these notations. Like it will occupy less space, it consumes less power, and it develops less heat. But the problem with the dynamic memory is it associated with a capacitor. So what is the property of capacitor? It can charge, it can hold the charge, but once it is fully charged, it will start discharging automatically. So that's the characteristics of a capacitor. Capacitor, till it is charging, the information will be stored. So once it is fully charged, automatically it will leak. It will leak the charges. So that's the basic characteristics of a capacitor. So we need to have some refresher circuit. That refresher circuit will always keep the capacitor in the charged condition. Okay, so that's the main issue here. So we need a refresher circuit. But we don't want that refresher circuit in this case. It doesn't require a refresher circuit because we are not using any capacitor, we are using only transistors. So in this angle, this looks advantage. So no refresher circuit. So are you getting the points? Anybody having any issues in understanding these points? Because these points are important to continue on our computer organization memory architecture. Shall I proceed?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So all of you please note down your assignment 1 topic. Assignment 1, let me make it simple. Assignment 1, you can submit individually. You can, okay, I'll do one thing. I'll type what are the things are required for the assignment 1. That we will, I'll share that in the WhatsApp group. Okay, so assignment 1, let me include the functioning of SRAM and DRAM, how these things are working, so that you will get clear idea. Okay, so all of you can take the same topic and you can submit. We will discuss deadline and all. Okay, in the WhatsApp group. Right. Now we are arrived with one conclusion. So dynamic RAM, static RAM are the two types of RAM. And advantage of static RAM is it can retain the information. It does not require any refresher circuit, though it is a volatile, but as long as power is there is no need to refresh. It can retain the information. Okay, whereas in dynamic RAM, it is very cheap. It will occupy less space. It will develop less heat. But the problem with that, it requires a refresher circuit. Now that refresher circuit is a very simple circuit. Okay, that's why I would like to include these things in the assignment topic so that you will understand how the refresher circuit is constructed. Okay, right. So now what we are going to do is we are going to use benefits of both. Okay, benefits of both. In other sense, we can say this is something fast, this is something slow. How do I say it's a slow? Suppose a processor is looking for some information, okay, in the dynamic RAM. When it is looking for something, during that time refreshing operation is going on, so it will delay in getting the information, right? So refresh operation will take place on every cycle. So we system has to wait till the refresh to complete. Okay, but there is no refreshment here. There is no need to refresh anything here. So whatever we want, it can, whatever it requires, it can easily get from the static RAM. So it is fast, it's slow. Okay, right. Now let us redraw the earlier circuit in this way. So we have a processor, CPU. We have a smaller capacity of static RAM. We have a smaller capacity of static RAM. Why we are using smaller capacity? Because this has many transistors and it occupies more space, it consumes more power, and it is also costly. It is costly because it requires a lot of transistors, right? So it's a cheap. So we are using a low capacity of static RAM and a high capacity of dynamic RAM. High capacity of dynamic. So these two constitutes volatile memory. Look here, let me go to the previous diagram. The previous diagram, I have used only one volatile memory right here. This one volatile memory, now it is divided into two devices. So together it's a volatile memory, but internally it has two. One low capacity volatile memory and high capacity volatile memory. Put together it's generally volatile memory. Then we have a non-volatile memory. Okay. Now I hope you appreciate the point why it is low capacity and why it is high capacity and why we need both. Suppose if I use only DRAM, the problem with the DRAM, it is slow. It requires refresher circuit, so it's a very slow thing. If we replace the entire thing with only SRAM, we are getting into these issues. So it occupies more space, it is a costly device, and it develops more heat. So we are using a low capacity of static RAM to get the benefit of some benefits are there, right? Like fast and like it's a fast, and dynamic RAM to get the benefit of dynamic RAM. It has more advantages. It occupies less space, it develops less heat, it consumes less power, it's very cheap. Okay, compared to static RAM, it's very cheap. So we want to utilize the benefits of both. So we are including both in our architecture. So this memory, in computer terms, in computer architecture terms, it is called as a cache memory. This memory is called as a main memory. And this memory is called as a disk memory. So from now onwards, I'm going to use the terms cache, main, disk. Disk memory, or sometimes it is also called as physical memory. Physical memory. Okay, now the structure is clear. Now the memory structure is like this. So in a computer organization architecture, or in a computer organization, we have cache memory, we have a main memory, and we have a disk memory. Right? Now let us understand one thing. CPU is looking for something, processor is needed something. Okay, so if that something is available in the static RAM, what is the benefit? Or if that item is available in dynamic RAM, what's the benefit? Or if the item is not available in both, it is available only here, what's the benefit? Can someone try to guess? I won't mind whether you are right or wrong. You try to guess. CPU is looking for something, that something is available in SRAM or available in DRAM or available in NVRAM, I mean non-volatile memory. What's the difference? What difference we make it? Our CPU.
Sir, the access will be faster, but depending on which location it is located.
Right.
Time
So,
taken to view the data.
yeah, thank you. So whenever CPU is looking for something, if that something is available in static RAM, then overall speed of execution will be improved. Suppose that information is not there in static RAM, next step CPU will look for the information in dynamic RAM. It will be somewhat slow compared to the previous case. Suppose that information is not available in dynamic RAM, then it will be a dead slow process because it has to go to physical memory, that is disk memory, and getting something from disk memory is a time consuming thing, and this is what happening in the computers. Right. Now, what to do this? We want to see at most of the time the information is available in the cache memory, right? So this is what we are going to discuss in detail. Okay, right. So usually the cache memory is in the ranges of kilobytes. Okay, just for example, let me take 1 kilobyte, and this will be in megabytes, something like 1 megabyte, but it is even much more than that. But for example, I'm talking. So usually the cache memory available in the form of kilobytes and main memory in megabytes, and this is in gigabytes. For example, something like this. So this is the fastest. This we can say medium speed. This is slowest. This is the costly. Medium cost, very cheap. Okay, right. So this is the way they are characterized. Now we are going to concentrate first on main memory, sorry, cache memory. So we are going to discuss further on cache memory. So now it's very clear. Some people are calling this as a cache memory, but anyhow, it's depends. Cache memory. So we are going to concentrate on cache memory. Generally, what happens is when we turn on the power, when we switch on the computer, initially the volatile memory or zero. I mean, nothing is there in their locations. Okay, so once again, nothing is there in the volatile memory. So what happens is we are using operating system, right? That operating system software will bring some data into dynamic RAM and some data from dynamic RAM to static RAM. Once the computer is started operating, it will start looking for the item in the static RAM. Then it will get the item from the static RAM if it is there. Okay, right. Now I told you the portion of this data will be whenever computer is switched on, the portion of the data will be shared here. From this, a portion of data will be shared here, right? This is called as mapping. It's called mapping. So mapping some data into lower capacity, from higher capacity to lower capacity, from here to here. Okay, so this is called as mapping. So how the mapping happens? For you to understand very simple, in simple terms, let us take one example. So let us take a cache of 10 locations. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 5 locations let us take. Okay, then main memory. Main memory usually it will be larger than the cache memory, right? So let us take something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm using these notations are all number of locations. So whatever I'm writing, they're all number of locations. Usually we can say address usually in the hexadecimal, but for understanding sake, let me use decimal. Okay. Okay, let it be like this. So we have 5 locations in cache memory. We have 15 locations in the main memory. Right? Fine. Now, when the computer is turned on, from the disk memory, from the physical memory, the data will be stored in the main memory. From the main memory, it will be copied onto the cache memory. How? The first location of the cache memory may get either the data from this, or data from this, or data from this. So this location will not contain this data. Are you getting the point? So this location can hold information of locations of 0 or locations of 5 or locations of 10 in main memory. Clear? So other location informations will not come here. Similarly, this will be mapped here. So at a time, either of these three, any of these three may available here. Clear? Right? So this is the way even the main memory and the disk memory also gets the information. Main memory can get the information from the disk memory in this way also. Same way. So this is called as direct mapping. So the system software will do that. So it will map any of these three locations into this location, any of these three locations into this location, like that. So other locations, so for example, 8 will not go to 2, 8 will not go to 0, 8 will not go to 4, 8 only will go to 3. So this is called direct mapping. So we are just connecting some relations we are maintaining, and only these will occupy in that cache, like that. Okay, right. Now this how we interpret. This we interpret 0th row, first row, for example, first row, second row, 0th row, first row, second row, something like that. Okay, now let us go to one example. So how a cache, or what the cache is containing. So what cache is containing? What cache contains? The cache contains, I'll take one location of a cache. This is one location of a cache. Okay, so here it is divided into 3. This is divided into 3. Okay, so here this part will have a data. This part will have a data. This part will have a tag. How many bits per tag? How many bits per data? I will work out one example. Okay, so this bit is called as a valid. Okay, so what is data? Data, suppose 0 to 0, it means what? The content of 0 is loaded into 0. The content of 5 is loaded into 0th location. The content of 10 is loaded into 0th location, right? So something like that. So for example, content of 10. Content of 10 is what? 10 refers address. Content of 10 is what? Data in that address. So that is called data. Okay, right. Tag. What is tag? So tag means for 10. So which arrangement it is? It is in the second arrangement, right? So there are 3 arrangements, 0, 1, 2. So 10 in the second arrangement, right? So 2. Are you getting the point? What is called tag? Suppose the cache has some data. Some data means what? It may be 0, or it may be 5, or it may be 10. Some data. Okay. In that case, one bit we are using called valid bit. If valid bit is 1, it means something is there. If valid bit is 0, the cache is empty. So we are started building the cache. System is started building the cache. Now I'll wait for a minute. Please let me know you're able to understand what I'm talking. So every cache location has 3 informations. One is data. It's a memory, and we are using memory to store the data. Okay, right. No issues. And tag. What is called tag? For this, in this example, so we have some arrangements. So which of that arrangement is occupied right now in the cache? For example, here we are we are thrice the capacity of cache. So we have the arrangement in the third category, now right now occupied in the 0th location. Okay, so let me give one more example. Suppose we are having 8, we are having 8. We are having 8, so then what to write here? 8. Okay, then what is the tag field right now? Tag is what? 8. So which arrangement it is from? It is in the this arrangement, right? So the tag field will be 1 and valid bit will be 1 because something is there in the cache, right? If something is there, then it will be 1. If something is not there, then it will be 0. Any problem in understanding this? Please try to get the point, because next class I'm going to start straight away how to identify tag, how to calculate tag, and how cache is copied from the main memory. This we are going to discuss in detail in the next class. But before that, you should know what is called tag, what is called valid, what is called data. You want me to repeat again, or are you all comfortable? Can someone?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Clear. Okay, thank you. I think I can stop at this point. Now I'll just cover what are the things we discussed, because this is very, very important topic. Even in interviews, hardware related companies, they're asking some questions on computer organization architecture, especially in the memory. Okay, so whatever we discussed today, let us review again. So in a computer, we have volatile memory as well as non-volatile memory. Because volatile memory has some advantages and non-volatile memory has some advantages, we want to use both. That's why we are using both. Right. Now, what is called a memory cell? It's a basic structure to store a bit information is called a memory structure. Right. So how a memory cell in RAM? For RAM, we have two types, static RAM and dynamic RAM. In both, the memory cell is not equal. In static RAM, to construct a memory cell, we need at least 6 transistors. Whereas in dynamic RAM, we need 1 transistor and a capacitor. The problem with the capacitor is it can retain the charge. It will fully, once it is fully charged, automatically it will leak the charges. So we need to refresh. We need to retain that charge in the capacitor. So we need to have some mechanism. That mechanism is called as refresher circuit. So we need a refresher circuit in dynamic RAM. But apart from that, dynamic RAM has other advantages. There are some advantages, like it's very cheap and it will develop less heat. It will occupy less space. So usually we go for larger capacities of dynamic RAM in our architecture. And static RAM, it consumes more power because number of transistors are more, and it develops more heat. Again, the reason is number of transistors. So we need to go for lower capacity of static RAM in our design. And the main benefit of static RAM is, though it is a volatile, but there is no need of a refresher circuit to retain the information in the cells. Okay, so there's a main benefit. So we are using both static RAM and dynamic RAM in the architecture. So from now onwards, the static RAM part of the memory we can call by a name cache. So usually cache comes with lower capacity, and dynamic RAM part of the memory we can call by main memory from now onwards. And from now onwards, we can call non-volatile memory as a disk memory or physical memory. The main characteristics is, usually the cache memory comes in kilobytes of capacity, main memory in megabytes of capacity, and disk memory in gigabytes of capacity. And static RAM is the fastest one. So in this group, the fastest is static RAM and the slowest is disk memory. And costliest cache memory and cheapest disk memory. So main memory is somewhat medium, when compared to these two, right? So what is the logic? Whenever the computer is turned on, from the permanent memory, some portion of information will be occupied by the main into the main memory. From the main memory, the portion of information will be occupied in the cache memory. So this is what happening. So that's why we are getting some booting delay even when you turn on the computer. Okay, right. Now, how these things are copied from one level to another level, it depends on some arrangements. Very simple arrangement for understanding to start with is the direct mapping. In the direct mapping, some portions of cache memory linked with some portion of main memory, only these are all connected. Okay, but I would like to remind you, this is not the only way the things are happening, but to start with, this is very easy. That's why I took this. So at a time, one of the portion of main memory can occupy in one slot of the cache memory. Okay, and originally what cache memory is, it is made up of static RAM, and it contains this information in every locations. In every location, it tells that, in every location it has data field, tag field, and valid field. Tag field is nothing but which arrangement from the main memory occupied into the cache memory. So that information is available in cache tag field, and the data from that arrangement is available in the data field. And whenever something is there in the data field, we can call a valid information. If something is not there, then we can call it as an invalid information. Okay, so further on this tag data valid, we will solve one example to understand that. I will do in the next class. Okay, any doubts so far? Okay, now this is a time for to discuss the assignment. So assignment 1, actually the deadlines for both the assignments, you have to submit 2 assignments. One assignment, let it be common assignment, so individually you can submit that. We can use for DA1. For DA2, I will share a Google sheet. You can form 3 members in a group, not less than 3, not more than 3. So form 3 members in a group, and you 3 people can identify a topic and write what topic, what to write, that I'll elaborate. Now let us focus on DA1, digital assignment 1. So in the digital assignment 1, what you have to do, you have to submit handwritten report of memory. What are the things you have to write, that I will share in the WhatsApp group. So I want to confirm which date you are able to submit from your side. I leave it to you. Originally the deadlines are last working day of this semester. I kept in that way, but I don't want to put pressure on last week to all of you. So let us complete before. Okay, so today is 15th March. So shall we fix April 2nd as a deadline to complete this one? Maybe 4 or 5 pages you have to write and submit. Is it okay? 2 weeks time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we will plan DA1 in 2 weeks time. You can you take 2 weeks time. I'll elaborate what are the things to include in the WhatsApp group. You can just go through it, and then accordingly you can plan. Okay, then DA2, I'll within this week we will finalize what to write, and that we can submit 2 weeks from that, uh, uh, like last week of April, something like that we can have. Okay, right. Okay, fine. I think I can stop at this point. So we'll wind up this.
Sir, what will be the quick one?